And thank you for the opportunity to be here with you all and to share some of our concerns regarding the present government as it continues to hunt down civilians and harass intellectuals, activists, social workers, and ordinary citizens who raise their voice against injustice. Yes, even as we speak, there is persecution of Christians and Dalits, murdering priests, stirring up violence that is going on right now. To add insult to injury and to make things worse, even the Indian judiciary has failed miserably to protect minorities, while the Indian and protecting those who are politically motivated to homogenize the nation through their BJP Hindu nationalistic ideologies. Shame on the Indian judiciary that has not only failed its citizens, and even worse, that it targets and captures human rights defenders. There are many clear examples of this, but I'm just going to focus on the failure of the Indian judiciary to protect minorities and human rights defenders as that of Father Stan while he was still in custody, an 84-year-old Jesuit priest. This stain on the record of the Indian judiciary will not be washed off anytime soon. Recently, the Working Group on Arbitrary Detention of the UN Human Rights Council raised the issue of the case with the government of India. The government did not even respond to the submission made by the Human Rights Council, showing the Indian state of disrespect of global human rights mechanisms and norms. The UN Working Group laid out many of the disturbing facts around Father Stan's detention and death, right from the point of investigation report, when his name wasn't even listed, through unlawfully holding and transporting without the bail option. The judiciary has failed on so many levels, where the voice of the human rights defenders is quashed. Where else can the minorities and ordinary citizens turn to for redressal? Let me share some facts related to the failure of the judiciary in actual terms as it occurred in the instance of the death of Father Stan. First, Father Stan was interrogated for over 15 hours in late July and early August of 2020 in the Bhima Karegong case. This itself is a travesty because Father Stan had nothing to do with Bhima Karegong incident. He was not present at either the event that took place, nor was he present during the violence that occurred around the event. Indeed, the UN Working Group's opinion notes that Father Stan's name had not appeared in the first investigation report lodged under the Bhima Karegong case, nor was he called for any inquiry or interrogation when 5 human rights defenders were arrested in connection to the case on June 2018. Second, 6 weeks later, Father Stan was forced to accompany officials of the National Investigation Agency, who neither had a warrant nor proof of any other decision by a public authority. They were not wearing uniforms and they did not have any clear identification tags, nor were they the same officers who had interrogated Father Stan. The NIA falsely claimed that Father Stan's lawyer was present at the time of his arrest. The lawyer only met with the NIA officials later that night, after learning of Father Stan's abduction by NIA officials. No charge sheet was filed at the time of Father Stan's arrest. The charge sheet was only filed the next day. Thirdly, the NIA illegally flew Father Stan from Ranchi to Mumbai, despite his protests that his fragile health and his pre-existing condition of Parkinson's disease made it difficult for him to travel. Father Swami was not even brought before any jurisdiction magistrate to obtain a transit demand before undertaking air travel, which is in violation of Indian law. In spite of the fact that Father Stan had cooperated fully with the investigation, and even though the NIA's own filings did not at any point claim that Father Stan was a flight risk or that he had in any way obstructed the investigations, Father Stan was still deprived of his freedom on October 9, 2020. The special NIA court in Mumbai also failed to provide bail relief to Father Stan on 22nd October, in spite of all of these mitigating factors. In spite of Father Stan's fragile conditions and advanced age, the NIA court in Mumbai on 26th November refused to provide Father Stan with winter clothes, nor with a straw or a sipper to drink water from, because his hands were shaky due to his Parkinson's. It was only after a huge public and international outcry that a sipper cup was provided to Father Stan, and this was on November 29 by the jail authorities. The special NIA court failed to provide bail relief to Father Stan on two further occasions, on November 26th and December 10th. In spite of the outbreak of COVID pandemic and the certainty of Father Stan's health, his deteriorating conditions in the crowded and unsanitary conditions in the jail, the NIA court in Mumbai again and again rejected his bail petition on as early as 22nd of March, 2021. By the time Father Stan challenged the denial of medical bail with the Bombay High Court, his health had deteriorated sharply and he had contracted COVID. As a result, the Bombay High Court asked for Father Stan to be shifted to a hospital for care, though he wasn't granted bail. By the time the next date on the question of bail for Father Stan, he actually passed away on July 5th. While he was still in custody. Justice had come too late for Father Stan. Like many others, Father Stan's case shows a very clear pattern of judicial failure to safeguard the rights of Indian citizens and human rights defenders in the face of persecution by the state. That so many adverse rulings come from the special NIA court in Mumbai is not an accident. As a UN opinion notes, the case was specifically moved to that court from the NIA court in Pune, even though the case could have been continued at the designated NIA courts in Pune. While the Bombay High Court did provide some relief that the lower courts failed to defend the rights of Father Stan, these are matters of deep concern, and the Bombay High Court has itself failed to provide bail relief to other senior human rights defenders arrested under the same case. In the context of the draconian laws like the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act and the law against sedition, and at a time of increased persecution of rights defenders by the Indian state on the basis of these laws, the courts have miserably failed to protect minorities and rights defenders. This is why, perhaps, the Union Working Group defended Father Stan's arrest to be in contravention to the International Convention on Civil and Political Rights, in contravention of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and was deemed arbitrary and unfair, very unfair. This is also why the UN Working Group called on the Indian government to provide compensation and reparations to his family in accordance with the international law. So even as we discuss Father Stan's case, 15 others, human rights defenders, remain his co-accused. 13 of those 15 are still in prison, including several of them who are 60s and in their 70s. If we do not urgently raise our voices in condemnation of the failure of the judiciary system and in support of the lives of stalwarts like Father Stan and the other co-accused, they all are going to be at the same kind of risk. And this is deplorable. We thank you so much for your kind hearing and hope that you will stand with us in the trenches, that we all together will see the light of justice dawn in our courts of law, in our judiciary systems, and all this in our time. Thank you.